Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Winning Wednesdays. I am Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney and the owner of the law offices of Elsa W. Smith, where our mission is to empower women through estate planning. Through our guest and educational content, my hope is to provide you with glimpses of what an empowered woman is and the tools that she needs to win. This week, we are talking about the topic of how you decide who gets your stuff when you die. Now, you've heard me say on more than one occasion that when you don't have a will, that's dying intestate, and your state's laws are going to dictate how your estate is distributed. Now, followers of this show are savvy enough to know that that is not where you want to be. That is having the state dictate what happens to your stuff. Now, before I get messages telling me that I should always refer to it as tangible personal property, let me respond by saying that that's not how you talk if you were having coffee with a friend. And I view this audience as friends. So for today's episode, we're going to go with stuff. Of course, I'll use that during the episode, but for the most part, we're going to go with stuff. Now, here's the topic of today for those of you taking notes. And what I want to focus on today is how you make those decisions while you're alive. How to be intentional about making sure your personal items find a new home, if that's your desire. You have an opportunity to leave a legacy if you put some thought into this process. The biggest source of stress for my clients who need this kind of help is that they have so much stuff and they are overwhelmed and don't know where to begin. So today I want to share some tips and some insight to help you decide who gets your stuff when you pass away, if not sooner. While there's no perfect way to distribute these items in your, as part of your estate plan, your primary goal should be to, maintain harmony among your loved ones during what's going to be an already emotional time. So let's get started. The first point is to talk to your family members about what they want. By talking with family members about their feelings, their expectations regarding your possessions ahead of time, you're going to have a much better idea on how to distribute them to your loved ones with the least amount of conflict. You can find out what people would prefer to inherit, and acting now gives you the opportunity to just talk with folks, whom you plan to bestow things, gifts, and find out what are the items that they really care about and which are the ones that, respectfully, they rather not have. You may be surprised. You might think your daughter wants the silverware when she would really prefer an antique rocking chair or some souvenirs from, a family vacation. You can still divide up your property any way that you wish, because after all, it's your estate plan, but you'll have more data, you'll have more information to go on. And dividing up personal possessions among adult children or other loved ones can be a difficult or strenuous task in deciding who should get what. Showing favoritism may hurt someone's feelings or can even cause a feud. Those worries, can be difficult to internalize. So even for the close-knit families who enter into the process with the best of intentions, communication is important. And I'll say that on more than one instance throughout this episode. If family members don't live close to each other, you can do a phone or a video call on FaceTime, Skype, or Zoom, or at least do, a conference call by phone, right? It's really good to talk to people individually as well as talking to them in a group. The next point I want to share, it's the little things. Here's what I mean. While you're having these conversations, remember, it's sometimes the small, simple items of maybe little monetary value that can cause the most conflicts. This is because the value that we attach to small personal possessions can be sentimental or emotional. And because the simple items are the little things that most families fail to talk about. Okay. The next point. How do I remember what's valuable or important to me? Walk through your home. Now, walk through each room of your house by yourself. And in the spirit of Marie Kondo's organizational principles, those of you who follow Marie Kondo and the KonMari method, she encourages us to find items that give you positive energy or spark joy, to use her words. Marie Kondo says that, joy is personal. So everyone is going to experience it differently. And Marie describes it, and this is a quote, as a little thrill, as if the cells in your body are slowly rising, right? If something no longer brings you joy, then place it on a list of items that may need a new home. This is how you start paring down all of the personal items you own. Make a list of all of the valuable items you have. And I mean, the big screen TVs, jewelry, collectibles, cars, art and antiques, computers, laptops, lawn equipment, power tools, and that list that you develop is probably going to be longer than you may have expected. And while we're on this subject of recording what's valuable to you, you should also record why treasured heirlooms and keepsakes are special. Here's what I mean. You may want to consider, just noting down in a notebook on paper, uh, some of the treasured items, heirlooms and keepsakes that you have. You list them, where they came from, and why they are significant. Provide that listing to family members, or at least talk to them about it so that they know who owned a particular item and some family history related to it, if that applies. And here's a neat thought in using technology: ask someone to capture you on video with each heirloom as you describe it and explain its history. And that's an easy thing to do. These stories not only help connect you with future generations, but having a strong family narrative also helps young people develop strong personal identities and boost their self esteem. Here's a personal note. I mean, I never got a chance to get to know my grandparents, and I would have loved to have videos and stories like this in our family legacy for me to refer to. So, just food for thought there. The next point is to find creative ways to get your family and loved ones involved. Here's an anecdote. I had a client who shared a really fun way of deciding who gets what. And I've shared this story with some of my clients. So if they're watching right now, they'll recall, that I brought up the story during our conversation. So this particular client had 3 adult children, and she invited them over for a family night. She gave each of them a post-it note of a particular color: red, green, pink. Each child was to go through the house and tag items that they would want to have. Now, if more than one child wanted the same item, they had to work it out amongst themselves. So it took the pressure off of my client and really brought the family closer in the end. Another creative idea that I've seen is to hold a family auction. So you'd give each person involved the same amount of play money, monopoly money, whatever, or use like virtual points like poker chips to bid on items that they want. So again, you can develop it however you want, but just here are a couple of suggestions that are, I thought, just thinking outside the box and fun. Um, the next tip uh, is to consider charitable donations. Now, various charitable organizations are readily, willing to accept items that you don't want or wish to sell and that family members, perhaps don't want. Gifting personal goods or property to charities can result in a charitable tax deduction. Now, you may give those items away now or indicate your wishes in your last will and testament. What are some items that people often give? Books. Now, if you have a large number of books, consider whether you can donate them to a little free library in your area. You've probably seen them in your neighborhood, like there's little kiosks and they look like a little post office box, a mailbox where people deposit books, and then other people in the neighborhood can just take those books out, read them, and put them back. So read a book, share a book. That's the concept. Their mission of Little Free Libraries is to be a catalyst for building community, inspiring readers, and expanding book access for all through a global network of volunteer-led Little Free Libraries. So I thought that was kind of neat. And if you have books to donate, that's an example of a worthy organization to consider. The next thing is clothing. I have clients who were in corporate America, the federal government, or just in the workforce in general, and have now transitioned into either retirement or another field that doesn't require them to wear suits every day. Um, if you fall into this category, consider organizations like Dress for Success that accept, women's clothing, or, Dress for Work and Career Gear, which accept men's clothing, or similar charities. My point is that those items you can do a lot of good. Those items can find a new home, and you can actually help someone while they're either getting back on their feet or getting started in the workforce. You can do good. The next thing to consider are repository donations. And here's what I mean with respect to that. You may think that no one has a need for your old letters, uniforms if you were in the military. However, when you put those things together and they can provide valuable information about our nation's history and something that may be of interest to a historical repository. In letters, diaries, unpublished writings of any type, and also through audible, visual, electronic records of recent times, researchers have been able to study and understand a lot about the history of particular families, communities, businesses, and organizations, the history of specific events and broader societal trends and the history of the United States in general. So don't be so quick to discard those things. The next thing to consider is gifting large or extensive collections. Now, I have had the pleasure of assisting clients with extensive art and music collections. That's actually really fun. It was really fun for me. The challenge in each instance for them is the cataloging, right? Then deciding who to gift certain items to. And this is an area where we provide tools and assistance for our clients. Here's an example. One client, I have the coolest clients. One client had an extensive collection of vinyl LPs with musical greats like John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, Ella Fitzgerald, to name a few, right? And we created an easy to use spreadsheet that allowed the client to identify the LP the intended recipient, and other important information about that particular gift. Now, the cataloging process allowed this client to appreciate how vast of a collection she really had, right? But capturing it in writing made it manageable. And that led to her being more empowered and more in control of what she owned. And then the final thing, and I'll wrap up with this, is gifting during your lifetime, right? You don't have to wait until you die to pass on your heirlooms and keepsakes. And you may prefer to give away certain items while you're still alive. By doing so, you get to personally see the joy on your loved one's face as they receive the gift. And you can also personally explain the reasons you wanted each person to have a particular item. If your heirlooms and keepsakes have a high monetary value, keep the gift tax issues in mind when you give them away. So that said, the IRS has a high annual gift tax exclusion in 2022. That's 16,000, and the lifetime exclusion is 12.06 million in 2022. Just FYI. So as you can see, there are a number of things to consider as you decide who gets your stuff when you die. One takeaway I hope you got from this episode is that you need to be intentional. You need to take a first step. This does not have to be overwhelming, and we're here to help. If you're in Maryland or the District of Columbia and want guidance on these matters and creating your estate plan, give us a call. Visit our website, elsawsmithlaw.com. Download some free resources we have there ready for you. Again, they are free, and they're going to help you get organized. I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Women Winning Wednesdays. I'm Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney, empowering women through estate planning. I'll see you all next time. Take care.